The phone screen glowed in the darkness of their bedroom. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed at 2 in the morning, watching notification after notification light up his wife's phone. Ding, ding, ding. Each sound felt like a nail being hammered into his chest. He picked up the device, his thumb hovering over the screen, and there it was, a video of Zara dancing in their living room, the one she'd posted 6 hours ago. 3 million views, 15,000 comments, most of them from men he'd never met, saying things about his wife that made his blood boil. Zara stirred beside him. "Daniel, what are you doing?" He turned to face her, his voice barely above a whisper, but heavy with pain. "Is our marriage entertainment now? Is this what we've become? Content for strangers?" Zara sat up, confusion and defensiveness flashing across her face. "What are you talking about?" "This," Daniel said, holding up the phone. 3 million people watching you, men commenting on your body, our private space turned into a stage. When does it stop, Zara? When is enough actually enough?" The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, in that dark bedroom filled with the blue light of social media notifications, both of them realized the same terrible truth. He had married a woman, but he hadn't realized he'd married an entire generation. Daniel was 36 years old, a millennial who grew up in a world that still valued privacy as currency. His father had taught him that a man's job was to protect his home, that marriage required boundaries, that what happened between husband and wife stayed between husband and wife. He worked 50 hours a week as an engineer, believed in stability, in order, in the quiet dignity of a life lived away from prying eyes. To Daniel, respect meant restraint, love meant protection, and protection meant keeping sacred things sacred. Every morning he woke at 6, made coffee in silence, and left for work before the sun fully rose. He paid bills on time, kept the house maintained, and took pride in being dependable. His phone was a tool, not a lifestyle. Social media was something he checked maybe once a week, scrolling through updates from old college friends he never talked to anymore. Daniel's Instagram had 47 followers, and his last post was from 2 years ago, a blurry photo of a sunset. But beneath his calm exterior lived a fear he never spoke about, a fear of being made small, of being mocked, of losing control over the one thing that mattered most to him, his marriage. His greatest nightmare wasn't that Zara would leave him for someone else. It was that the entire world would watch him fail as a husband, posted and tagged and shared until his private pain became public entertainment. Zara, on the other hand, was 22 years old and Gen Z to her core. She had grown up with a camera in her hand and the entire world at her fingertips. To her, visibility wasn't vanity, it was opportunity. Silence wasn't peace, it was suppression. She was creative, bold, outspoken, and absolutely unwilling to dim her light for anyone's comfort, even her husband's. Her TikTok had 200,000 followers. Her Instagram stories got thousands of views daily. She posted outfit videos, dance challenges, day-in-the-life vlogs, and honest takes on everything, from mental health to marriage. To Zara, social media wasn't just fun, it was her identity, her income, her way of connecting with a generation that understood her. Brand deals paid for her car. Sponsored posts covered her student loans. What Daniel called exposure, Zara called expression. She believed love shouldn't feel limiting, that a husband should celebrate his wife's shine, not dim it, that trust meant freedom, not control. In her world, keeping things private felt like hiding, and hiding felt like shame. Why would she hide something beautiful? Why would she shrink to make someone else comfortable? They had met 18 months ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. Daniel had noticed her immediately, not because she was on her phone, which she was, but because of the way she laughed, full-throated, unashamed, alive. When she caught him staring, she didn't look away. She walked right up to him. "You're going to keep staring, or are you going to introduce yourself?" she'd said, a playful smile on her lips. Daniel had laughed, caught off guard. "Daniel, and I wasn't staring, I was observing." "Right, observing. That's what we're calling it now." She'd extended her hand. "Zara, and you're definitely older than everyone else here." "Guilty. 35 and feeling it." "I like older guys. They're less dramatic." She'd said it matter-of-factly, and something in Daniel's chest had loosened. Here was someone who saw his age not as a limitation, but as an asset, someone who admired his calm when everyone else found it boring. They'd talked for 3 hours that day, about music, about life, about the strange way the world kept changing faster than anyone could keep up with. Zara admired Daniel's stability, his quiet confidence, the way he listened more than he spoke. Daniel admired her fearlessness, her creativity, the way she refused to apologize for taking space. The age gap, 14 years, hadn't mattered then. Love had a way of making logistics feel irrelevant. 6 months later, they were married in a small ceremony, which Zara, of course, documented extensively on Instagram. Daniel had smiled through it, even posed for the photos, because seeing her happy made him happy. Back then, he'd thought he could adapt. Back then, he thought love would be enough. But marriage had a way of revealing what dating hid. The first real argument came 3 months in over dinner. Daniel had made reservations at a nice restaurant. He'd gotten off work early, showered, put on a button-down shirt. When he picked Zara up, she was filming a Get Ready With Me video, camera propped on the bathroom counter. "You almost ready?" Daniel asked from the doorway. "2 seconds, babe, just finishing this transition." She'd barely looked at him, too focused on getting the right angle, the right lighting. At the restaurant, Zara had filmed their food before eating, filmed Daniel's reaction to the appetizer, posted a story about their date night with the location tagged. Daniel had said nothing, but his jaw was tight. His silence was loud. "What's wrong?" Zara had finally asked, putting her phone down. "Nothing," Daniel had said. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. The phone, the constant performance, the feeling that he was sharing his wife with thousands of people he'd never meet. "Daniel, talk to me." He sighed, choosing his words carefully. "Can we just have one night without documenting it? One moment that's just ours?" Zara's expression shifted from concern to defensiveness. "What are you talking about?" "This," Daniel said, holding up the phone. 3 million people watching you, men commenting on your body, our private space turned into a stage. When does it stop, Zara? When is enough actually enough?" She'd agreed that night, said she'd post less, be more present, but the agreement lasted exactly 2 weeks before old habits crept back in. Small fights became frequent fights, Daniel asking for less posting, Zara agreeing temporarily, then sliding back. Neither of them addressing the real issue, control versus freedom, privacy versus expression, an old-school mindset colliding with a generation that broadcast everything. Then came the video that changed everything. Zara had been scrolling through TikTok one afternoon when a trending sound caught her attention. It was catchy, upbeat, perfect for a dance challenge. She'd learned the choreography in 20 minutes, set up her ring light in the living room, and filmed herself dancing. She posted it at 6 p.m. with the caption, "Felt cute, might delete later." By midnight, it had 100,000 views. By the morning, it had 1 million. By the afternoon, 3 million. Comments flooded in, some supportive, some thirsty, some disrespectful in ways that made Zara's skin crawl, but also made her feel seen, validated, relevant. Brands reached out within hours. A clothing company wanted to sponsor her. A dance studio invited her to teach a workshop. A podcast requested an interview. Zara's phone became a tornado of opportunity. She was flying high on adrenaline and validation, finally breaking through to the next level of influence she'd been working towards for years. Daniel saw the video at work. A coworker had shown it to him during lunch, grinning. "Dude, isn't this your wife?" Daniel's stomach dropped. He watched the 20-second clip, Zara dancing in shorts and a crop top, moving her hips to the beat, completely at ease with the camera. The comment section was a war zone. Some people praised her talent, others said things that made Daniel want to throw his phone across the room. One comment in particular burned itself into his brain. "Whoever gets to come home to this every night is the luckiest man alive." It had 5,000 likes, 5,000 strangers thinking about his wife in their bed, 5,000 people inserting themselves into his marriage. By the time Daniel got home, he'd passed angry and landed somewhere close to numb. Zara was on the couch, phone in hand, responding to messages from brands. "Hey, babe." She looked up, her face glowing with excitement. "You won't believe what's happening. The video hit 3 million views, and I've already gotten 2 brand deals worth—" "Take it down," Daniel said quietly. "What?" Zara blinked. "The video. Take it down. Delete it. Are you serious right now? Daniel, this is the biggest opportunity I've ever had."
This video is literally changing my career and exposing our marriage to millions of strangers. Do you know what people are saying about you? About us? His voice cracked, and Zara could hear the pain beneath the anger. I don't care what strangers say, Daniel. I care about building something for myself. This is my work. This is who I am. And what am I? Just a footnote in your content? The boring old husband who doesn't get it? His hands were shaking now. You didn't just go viral, Zara. You exposed us. You turned our life into a spectacle. No, Zara stood, her own anger rising to match his. You're afraid of opinions, not of losing me. You're scared people will judge you, so you want to control me. This isn't about respect, Daniel. This is about your ego. My ego? I'm trying to protect our marriage. By telling me who I can be? By demanding I make myself smaller so you feel bigger? That's not protection, Daniel. That's control. The words hung in the air like smoke. Neither of them knew how to clear it. The space between them felt like miles. I can't do this, Zara said, finally, her voice breaking. I can't keep defending who I am to the person who's supposed to love me most. She grabbed her keys and her phone and walked out. The door closed with a soft click that felt louder than any slam. Daniel stood in their empty living room, surrounded by ring lights and camera equipment, and realized he'd just lost his wife trying to protect her. The days that followed were excruciating. Zara stayed with her best friend across town. Daniel went to work, came home to an empty house, and sat in silence. He kept picking up his phone to call her, then putting it down. Pride and pain wrestled for dominance. One night, unable to sleep, Daniel found himself scrolling through old photos. Their wedding day, their honeymoon, lazy Sunday mornings. In every picture, Zara was glowing, not because of filters or perfect lighting, but because she was genuinely happy. When had he stopped seeing that? When had he started seeing her content instead of her joy? He thought about his parents, married 40 years, barely a photo of them together. His father had been proud of that. Private people, he'd called them. But Daniel remembered the loneliness in his mother's eyes, the way she'd shrunk over the years, made smaller by a man who believed love meant limitation. Was that who he'd become? A man so afraid of judgment that he'd cage the woman he loved? Across town, Zara wasn't doing much better. She'd deleted the video, not because Daniel demanded it, but because it stopped bringing her joy. Every comment, every like, every view felt hollow without him there to share it with. Her best friend had asked her the question she'd been avoiding. Are you creating because it makes you happy, or because you're addicted to the validation? Zara didn't have an answer. She'd built her entire identity around visibility, around influence, around never letting anyone make her small. But somewhere along the way, had she confused freedom with rebellion? Had she been so determined to prove Daniel wrong that she stopped asking if he had a point? Not about controlling her, but about them needing boundaries that protected both of them. Love doesn't fail loudly. It fades quietly when pride refuses to bend, when fear masquerades as protection, when neither person can admit they're both a little bit wrong and a little bit scared. The 7th day of separation, Daniel texted her, not a demand or an apology, just a question. Can we talk? Really talk? They met at a coffee shop neither of them had been to before. Neutral ground. Zara arrived first, her hands wrapped around a latte she wasn't drinking. Daniel walked in 5 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept in days. They sat across from each other, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "I'm afraid," he said simply. "Not of you, not of your success. I'm afraid of being replaced, of being irrelevant, of watching you become this huge thing and realizing you don't need me anymore. I'm afraid strangers will see you in ways I can't, offer you things I don't have, and I'll just be the old guy who couldn't keep up." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm afraid too," she admitted. "I'm afraid if I stop creating, if I go private, I'll disappear. That I'll wake up one day and realize I gave up everything that made me who I am just to make someone else comfortable. And I'm afraid that no matter how much validation I get online, it'll never feel like enough because, well, I'm addicted to it too, to the attention, to being seen, and I don't know if that's confidence or just brokenness." Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. "I don't want to control you. I never wanted that. I need to know that we have something that's ours, something sacred that the world doesn't get to touch. And I need to know that loving you doesn't mean shrinking me, that I can be big and bold and still be your wife." They talked for 3 hours about boundaries that respected both of them, about what could be shared and what should stay private, about Daniel learning to listen without trying to command, and Zara being more intentional about what she put online. Neither of them got everything they wanted, but they both got something more important: understanding. Zara still creates content. Her followers still love her authenticity, but now their bedroom is off limits. Date nights aren't documented. Fights aren't aired for engagement. She still dances, still films, still builds her brand, but with boundaries that honor her marriage as much as her ambition. Daniel learned to celebrate her wins instead of fearing them. He appears in her videos sometimes now, usually looking mildly uncomfortable, but also genuinely happy. He's learned that supporting her doesn't mean losing himself, and that trust isn't about control, it's about choosing each other, even when it's scary. 6 months after their separation, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony. This time, only 10 people attended. No cameras, no content, just them, choosing each other again with more wisdom and less ego. Marriage across generations doesn't survive on rules or trends. It survives on understanding, the willingness to see your partner's fears without dismissing them, to honor your own needs without weaponizing them, to admit when you're wrong and stay anyway. Love doesn't win loudly. It fades quietly when pride refuses to bend, when fear masquerades as protection, when neither person can admit they're both a little bit wrong and a little bit scared. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt the tension between protecting what you love and letting it be free, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, because every week we bring you real stories about real relationships, about growth and mess, and the beautiful struggle of loving another human being. This isn't about perfect endings, it's about honest ones. Drop a comment below. Are you Team Daniel or Team Zara? Or do you think they were both right and both wrong? Have you dealt with generational differences in your relationship? Share your story. I read every comment, and your experiences might help someone else feel less alone. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone navigating the complicated space between old values and new realities, share this video, hit that like button, because stories like these matter, understanding matters, and choosing love over pride, that always matters. Until next time, keep choosing each other, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.